Rajiv, the devil often lies in the details. The government perhaps is right in saying that they've made the effort to wire up all the villages. But the question eventually comes of household connections. Correct. And in India, a village is electrified if 10% of the households are connected. Correct. And as we've seen in our stories, the quality of supply is irregular, the point that Professor Iyer made. Plus, achieving this large 3.4 crore households that remain is not going to happen overnight. So is the government prematurely celebrating?
So it's still a work in progress, Rajdeep. If you look at it, the reason why it didn't happen is because this last 2-3% is the most difficult thing to achieve. Remember, China until 2015 had not been able to achieve it. It's just been 3 years before, 3 years before we are going to be able to do it. So China did it between 2013 and 2015, and 2015 they declared that all their villages and all their households have been electrified. We are targeting 2019, but we are far away from that, essentially because we have only about done 4 million villages in the past 6 months, and we have to do 30 million villages in the next 1 year. That's why it's a difficult task, and the reason is because the cost is prohibitive. If you take grid electricity to any of the far off villages, it costs about $16,000 per household, which is like, on an average in cluster housing or cluster, costs are about $100 to $500 per household. So you're talking of $16,000 to be able to bring grid to a, so that's why they don't bring grid. That's why it is distributed power or solar power, which is in the region of $1,200 to about $3,500 per household. That's the kind of cost, and all of that has to be borne by the government because it's unviable.
Arunabha Ghosh, to that extent, how far are we from actually this mission, the real mission of the government, which it claims that they will electrify all households? Is March 31st, 2019 really a realistic deadline?
Rajdeep, we are very far because of two reasons. First is the rate of household electrification has to increase to about 3.3 million households being electrified every single month to be able to get to that target. Until recently, India's average of household electrification was about 300,000 households per month. So a tenfold increase is needed in terms of household electrification rates in just getting the wires across. The second thing is even more important, where as a country we have to completely reassess and redefine what we mean by electricity access. It cannot any longer mean that only 10% of the households have a wire coming in, or even that every household has a wire coming in. It has to mean something more than that. That electrons are flowing through those wires, that it is reliable supply, that it is that the duration of that supply is at least 20 hours per day, and that the voltage of that supply is stable enough so that the bulbs and other appliances don't get damaged. Only then can we begin to argue that a household is getting quality power. When a household gets quality power, then it is willing to pay for that power. And when the household is willing to pay for that power, we begin to reassess and solve the problem that we have with state distribution companies, where they are having to subsidize that poor quality power and running up losses. So this vicious circle has to be broken by redefining what we mean by electricity access in the country.